Good evening, good evening. As I said, I'm pretty tired in the last couple of days, probably due to sound effects and things like that. But I'll try to התגבר כארי, stand up as a lion and continue my work today. Maybe I'll take some microscopic examinations because I haven't done it maybe a week or two. I don't know. No, when you're under arrest, every day looks the same. So, but I need to do it. But I'm also, advancing in the art. So the backgrounds are now pretty dry. Not totally dry, but enough dry, so I can actually start the painting, which will of course surround around the destruction of the snakes, the hybridic snakes that are eating the robots. Maybe I'll also start with the full metal jacket. Since this is going to be like oil, so it will be done in layers. Probably take me several nights. So I will probably work maybe on parallel. If I have the energy to start several new projects together. I should say that I'm after a few days I'm less dissatisfied with this painting. After I've done with it, I also told you that it's not very successful, but I'm kind of I came to peace with it. I think it's okay now. I'm probably not going to even fix it because it's already it's nice. As I said, it's very messy. It's oil over acrylic over oil over used canvas, which is like a messy choice of material, and also interestingly not like regular frame, but just like a hard block that was used for drawing. I used it maybe 2 years ago, but I'm more satisfied with it now. It got some nice features, the oil, the light effect with the oil, and it preserves what I really wanted to convey, which is the scary and creepy and uncanny hybridic nature of the animal. You don't understand, is it machine or something alive? It's all together and it's very uncanny, which is exactly what it is, the bicycle bacteria. Should say that the last added element was the significant one, was this scary tail, which I like. Should also add that I like how it's kind of the oil gives it a 3D effect, which is nice. So it's a scary element of the animal, of the bacteria. And this is actually very an old divination that I had. So about 2 years ago, I actually used this exactly this block for drawing of all sorts of things that have divinations, dreams, but fuzzy thoughts that so I draw. So I use it for drawing, and one of the and all these elements are in retrospective, you can say that they are part of the life forms that I created. And this is including the tail. I will show you. This is the front, and this is the back. So you don't see everything because the canvas covers it, but you do see the tail. This is the tail, and you see this is the full metal jacket body, and there are other stuff here. This is interesting. And with respect to the bicycle bacteria, we should also mention another physical object, which is the hookah. In Israel, people like the hookah maybe because, I don't know, it reminds them of hooking up, as if they actually have sex and not only speak about it, as if. But high school children, boys will be boys and girls will be girls, as they say. But what's special about the hookah is that it's like an hybridic machine. Certainly of all smoking devices, but even on its own, without in comparison, this is like a machine that it's an ancient machine. It's not something new, but it's like there is like the glass element and water and bubbles and metal and clay and like and rubber. And I mean, if you don't have to use rubber. You can use, I mean, if you don't have it, you can use like cloth. I guess that's what they used like in the past. But I mean, typically rubber. I mean, and tobacco, and you know, wet tobacco and aluminum foil, and then on top like burning charcoals. And you have this kind of like, I mean, you know, the hose that is, I mean, that is used for smoke. So I mean, like so many different materials, and like from like together. I mean, which makes it a little bit scary. I mean, from the, like, you know, from that perspective. And arguably, you can say that from somewhat, I mean, from some angle, it might resemble the bicycle bacteria. I don't know. More so, like it resembles actually the starships, like the Caribbean starships. Maybe you see it, like, I mean, usually, I mean, you see that, like this like this circle, and I mean, and that the circle that is like, I mean, the main body. But I mean, it actually resembles like, I mean, and this is of course the warp drive, like with the flames. It's actually, I mean, somehow it resembles, like, I mean, starship from science fiction movies. Somewhat. I mean, you need imagination for that. So anyway, I mean, you know that in the Caribbean room there is also the not only the two walls that, I mean, I only recently like came to understanding that these are the day and the night. I mean, but I understood that there's like two walls and I mean, and two paintings on each wall, like, I mean, at least two. I mean, since like long ago, like this is the reason for the sign of the four. I mean, which is kind of like an element in my art since like 18 months. And widely documented, of course, in Twitter and Facebook. Of course, it can be much more than four. I mean, four for one background. I mean, you know, but I mean, you can add like other backgrounds if you didn't want, you know, to depict scenes from, you know, from Venus. So it's extra four. So, so there's the two walls, and on the middle there is the arc with the tablets, you know, which, I mean, is something physical. And for that I use sculptures. I have many sculptures that are being used, like, I mean, in my art. But it's also, I mean, the main sculpture is myself. Like, I know I'm a sculpture, you know. So if I do things, I mean, it have like meaning. And actually, this is something that, I mean, might sound like, I mean, magical or voodoo, like, I mean, that I do sing and it has like magical effects on the world. But I mean, more than this is kind of like, I mean, the most common belief among the Israelis, like among the people of the Israeli intelligence. Like, I mean, it's perhaps the most, like, I mean, ludicrous one, but it's actually the most common. That if I do stuff like actions, specifically in my room, like, but also outside, but mostly in my house, like where I sleep, like in my four, you know, walls. I mean, so it's like a magical effect. I mean, and this was long ago, because I mean, you know, they're always following me, and like there was always, like, you know, the haunted house, like, you know, effects of the sounds, and I spoke about it a lot in the past, like, you know, the efforts of way, like, I mean, not only to monitor you all the time, but also to use noises and whatever, like, I mean, to get you insane, or to presumably gives you messages. I don't know, whatever interpretation you want to give it. It's horrible, like jailhouse. I mean, worse than any kind of like panopticon that any of your philosophers ever imagined. But anyway, I mean, you understand after the time that they actually, I mean, the Israeli intelligence, like they give, like, I mean, a lot of, like, I mean, meaning, like, to actions that they do. I mean, mostly, of course, actions that are kind of like involved with things like, I mean, using knife or scissors, or, I mean, or things like, I mean, that with fire, I mean, or electricity. You know, I mean, I never understood why, but it was clear to me that, I mean, when there is something like perhaps dangerous, even though what can be dangerous with a knife? I mean, I'm using it, you know, for art or whatever, like. But yes, I mean, this is like the most, like, I mean, this is from them it's got like a very high, like highly symbolic value. So maybe, I mean, they're right, and like, if I use the hookah, I mean, you can say that maybe, I mean, so if you interpreted the head like it's the warp drive, it means that more ships are coming. And if it is the weapon, so it means that it firing in the earth. flying the earth. And if, even though of course should be said that the main weapon of the starships is radiation. I mean, and they have many sorts of radiation weaponry. As I've said in the past, I mean, it's funny, just so I'll repeat it. I mean, the flag of the United States is interpreted by the Cubes as weapon calibration instructions for like the gunners in the spaceships. It took me a long time to understand it because it's so ludicrous. But that's what I think about the American flag. It's like, I mean, this is instructions, like specific instructions for operating the radiating weapons. It took me so long to understand it. I mean, even after I understood that they interpret the flag like, because I painted many flags, you know, there was like several months that I painted tremendous amount of flags, and were all sorts of variations and also artistic flags, and this is how, I mean, and most of it is still with me, like in the closet, I mean, in oil, in acrylic, and like in many variations. And so, I mean, so it took me some, I mean, eventually I understood that from their perspective, they don't give a shit, like, I mean, about this. What's it? I mean, they don't know what state. I mean, they know, but they don't want to know what is like a country or a state. From their perspective, I mean, the minimal like object that they refer to is a planet or a moon, but no smaller than that. Rarely smaller than that, but in our case, it's not one of the rare cases. It's the standard case, which is that they don't want to speak about something smaller than the Earth. They rarely do. It's not entirely correct that they never do it, but this is not one of these cases. This is a normal case, which means that from their perspective, it's like the ball. I mean, they treat the ball. The ball is the minimum, like minimal object. So I understood that they understand the flag in completely different ways, and it's kind of funny, but I mean that's the way it is. And you can also say that, I mean, so it's not like firing weapon. It's not fire. It's or kinetic like weapon. It's radiation. And I mean, so maybe, I mean, if you prefer the bacteria interpretation, I mean, maybe, I mean, I don't know, I give like energy to the bacteria to multiply in the bodies of like whatever, like, every time I use it. Should say that, I mean, there is like, this was a very noisy evening. I mean, explosions outside, and you know, the windows always like, I mean, you know, threatening to shatter, like, I mean, from the booms, and of course alarms. And at that point, I really asked myself, I mean, is this for me? Like, I mean, maybe it's all for me, you know, because the Israelis, that's the way they are. I mean, maybe it's just for me. Maybe, you know, it's just a kind of, you know, a huge game that is made. So I mean, the robot will be afraid, because the robots are afraid of noise, of course, and they will run outside, and that's the way. That way, the gates will be opened, and the hybridic fuckers will be able to get back to Israel with the stuff, with the gear. And I asked myself, I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but I mean, the fact that at that point, I'm totally, like, seeing that it's feasible, like maybe it is, that they will do such thing, like, you know, a whole charade of a war, including whatsoever. I mean, just, I mean, for me to get out, I mean, this is, I mean, this is a ridiculous place. Like, I mean, it's Jurassic Park. I mean, they display historical animals. I mean, they noise like is there. I mean, like, this is the main weapon here. Not that they don't have other weapons. They have ton of other. I mean, they are using electricity, sound, like subliminal sound attack. They're, I mean, you know, poisoning you. I mean, they have a tremendous amount of attack, but the major weapons, like, I mean, they're by far the most widely used and by the most people, is noise. Just noise. Just like this is Jurassic Park. This is the main weapon. Intimidation by noise. And what's Joseph? I mean, what is this thing? I mean, how is it even existing? Like, how does it even exist? How is this is the 21st century? How did people like all around the world let it live? This thing, and you see more booms. How did people let it live? I don't know. And really, at that point, I really don't care. I mean, the alarm. I really don't care. Maybe it's like, you know, maybe it's a real war with the Hamas or whatever. Even though, what does it even mean? Because it's all fake. Like, I mean, in some way or another, it's all fake. Every kind of, like, I mean, conflict with the Palestinians, it's all manufactured thing that is mostly by the Israelis. And maybe, I don't know, maybe at that point I believe anything, because I understood that from their perspective, the Israelis, they must, I mean, the show must go on. I mean, you know, they must continue, I mean, subjugating me as the robot mattress and you know, must, I mean, like, you know, have monopoly on the radioactive isotopes and etc., etc. I mean, they cannot, I mean, in the past I thought that, I mean, that perhaps like the condition of the Israelis at this time or maybe in the future will be something along the lines of, you know, כי אני הקשחתי את ליבו, like, you know, from the book of Exodus, which means that, I mean, part of the punishment is that God doesn't let the evil people repent. But, I mean, very quickly I understood that repentance was never on the table. God doesn't need to you know, to harsh, like, you know, to intervene with the mechanism of free will and to, like, I mean, to harden the heart of the Israelis. They are, I mean, fully reptilian mode since many decades ago, and it's not going to change. No one needs to do anything. Their nature is that they cannot change at all. They cannot change. Of course, all of this is just other reasons why, I mean, the crime of the United States is so big, so large, because they are the bosses here since, I mean, as I said, it was a process that started during the 70s up until the early 90s. But they are the adult, like, I mean, the responsible adult in this state. And they let this craziness continue for so long. And of course, they did it because they know, they're fully aware of, I mean, of the Venusian conspiracy, and of course they want the energy, and they are also, I mean, besides, you know, the material arguments, I mean, they have the religious thing that, I mean, it's a disappointment, because I truly thought that, I mean, there is like a wide, I mean, presence of authentic Christian beliefs and practices in the United States. But I mean, the facts are what matters, not what you think is the truth or what you saw in television or whatever. And the facts are that they hate God. They hate God. They just hate God. And the main objectives of the Americans was the same objective of the same main objective of the Israelis. I mean, with everything, with respect to myself, like to my own existence, it was always the main objective, the same objective, which is to test whether I'm a homosexual or not. And this test, I mean, it takes place for decades now, and it never ends. Of course, because, I mean, and the reason for I mean, the continuity of the test throughout decades, I mean, and so many people were involved in the testing, it's still I mean, still going on. Of course, I mean, the reason is simple, you know, that I'm obviously not homosexual. I've never demonstrated any kind of, like, I mean, any behavior that, I mean, even slightly suggests that this is the fact. And I've since, like, I was a young teenager, I demonstrated every possible behavior that is in line with heterosexual, you know, like a male, including everything that you can think about. But I mean, that's why the test it must go on, because this answer is not acceptable by the Americans and nor by the Israelis. And it's not only stupid, cruel, because, I mean, what kind of test? I mean, what is the test? The test is always the same. I mean, surround the person with a group of, you know, pedophiles and homosexual creeps, and let them, I mean, you know, threat him and try to rape him and torture him until presumably something will happen that will demonstrate that actually he's homosexual. Presumably, I mean, that's the agenda for decades now. And it's not only cruel and stupid and unbelievably, you know, unjust, but it's also, I mean, so childish. I mean, this is what, I mean, you don't care about the fact that aliens are going to destroy the entire Earth. Just the fact, I mean, you just want to I mean, from your perspective, the question is just, I mean, how do we prove that this person is actually homosexual? Because presumably, I mean, according to some people, especially among the Americans and the Israelis, I mean, I am associated with Jesus, and presumably and they are all homosexuals and pedophiles because that's the way it is in the Israeli and American intelligence, but not only there. And presumably, Jesus was, strictly against homosexuals, even though no word in the Evangelions treats this issue at all. It's true that they are referred to in the epistles, by Paul. But Jesus, the red letters, you wouldn't find a word on the subject. Not to say that he wasn't against it, but the issue is never there. But from their perspective, Jesus is against homosexuals because, I don't know, associatively they think that, because, I don't know, it's all associative. It's not, there is no logic in here. So presumably it means that he must have been an homosexual because, that's why he was so vehemently against it, as is manifested in nowhere and is proven in nowhere. But it must have been the reason for this non-existent phenomenon must have been rooted in another non-existent phenomenon. It's all in their brain. They built a huge construct in their brain, which has no relation to any fact. And then, and from their perspective, then they must prove it that actually Jesus was homosexual by proving that I am homosexual. And again, this has nothing to do with reality, simple reality of a person that, throughout his life, for decades, demonstrated only heterosexual behavior in any possible way. Since he was a teenager, he've done everything that, heterosexual do, including everything. They kept being like that until now, continuously. But they don't care about reality at all. This is true both for the Americans and the Israelis. They just don't care. It's completely it's all in their brain. It's like a crusade that's happening just in their brain, in their own mind, without any reference to reality. Not by the objectives, from the perspective of the objective, which is entirely imaginary, and not from the perspective of how do you actually get the object or reach objective that are also completely imaginary. These are the Americans. These are the Americans. And that's a fact. This is how Christian they are. This is their Christianity. And it's not funny at all because, directly allowed the continuing of the subjugations of innocent people and the torturing of children and the torture of innocent people because the Americans are, they're the strongest nation, and they set the agenda. And by setting the agenda to be whether he is or not homosexual, or whether the videos that the Israelis are, publishing about him are fake or not, even though, of course they are fake. This is, was obvious for so many reasons that it's not time to even start to elaborate on it. But of course they are fake. By the way, what kind of a Jesus you believe in if you think that, this is Jesus and that's how he acts? So, who is your God? Who is your God? But even without that kind of theological argument, it's from so much positivistic evidence, it's all fake and always have been fake. But by setting the agenda to the question of whether he is homosexual or not, or whether these videos are true or not for decades, other people in this world, not that I relieve them from guilt, but it caused many people around the world in the other intelligence communities to forget about another question, which is, why do we allow the Israelis to act like the worst Nazis that ever existed? Because that was always the question. Why do you allow it to happen? Why do you not move arms and legs so the Nazis will stop being super Nazis? But one of the main methods to avoid discussing this issue was to spin it in a way that, that this question will not be why do we act like Nazis? But instead the question will be, is he homosexual and a pervert, and are these movies fake or not? And then it's never ending questions. That cannot get an answer, because the answer is, of course, that he's not homosexual and these are fake movies. That's why he was never arrested by the police, and he has no criminal record, because it's all, everybody knows that it's fake. And he's not homosexual because he demonstrated any kind of heterosexual behavior that you can think of consistently throughout his life. And this is very easy to know. There's nothing secret about here, and this is not there is none question. But of course, the result of the consequences of this, the mismatch between the question and the required answer is continuously asking the questions, instead of asking, why do you act like Nazis? And this is the United States. This is what they are. You need to judge them by what you see in front of your eyes, not by all sorts of images that we all have, like, you know, from Hollywood or, you know, Netflix or whatever. Yes, I mean, I'm like versed enough in like pop culture, but I mean, and I should say that, I mean, I spent 7 months like in community in the United States, both traveling, studying, working, all sorts of things. But I mean, the most important thing is how they actually act consistently, and I mean, by consequences, if you judge by the consequences of their actions, this is the worst superpower that ever existed, the worst empire, because they set a very grim future for humanity. You will never recover from what you've done. You are now in a war with species that, I mean, you are like microbes next to them, and they will never forgive you. They will never forgive you. They will never forgive you.